Thank you to Carl and Tendai for being here today. Really excited to hear their thoughts on what's happening in their sector. I'm going to let them introduce themselves first. So Carl, do you want to start?
Sure, thank you, Theresa. So hi, I'm Carl. I'm one of the sector leads here at ClearlySo for the healthcare and well-being sector. I joined ClearlySo just about a year ago, and previously I was at various investment banks working with technology companies, helping them raise money, anywhere from a couple of £1 million up to hundreds of millions of pounds, euros, or dollars. And at ClearlySo, we focus very much on the digital health space, helping companies in the main raise their Series A or Series B rounds and up. And I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you so much, Carl. Tendai, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Theresa. Thanks, Carl. Hi, my name is Tendai, and I am one of the co-sector leads of the health and well-being sector at ClearlySo. I have been with ClearlySo since June of 2018. I have done work in fund advisory and some fund mandates, as well as some enterprise mandates in renewable energy and financial inclusion. I have recently joined healthcare and well-being, which is a very exciting sector, especially in this time. Previously, before ClearlySo, I was in impact investing, working for a Big Four accounting firm as a portfolio and fund manager, working under different funds that were specifically focused on financial as well as impact investing. I have been in impact investing for the last 8 years, and before that, I was working for an investment bank.
That's great, Tendai. Thank you. So I'll pose this question to both of you, and whoever wants to answer first can start. But I'm really interested to hear, for the health and well-being sector, what do you think were the biggest changes that happened during lockdown?
I can take that one, Theresa. So we did, of course, notice a significant drop-off in commercial discussions across the board. So essentially, if you as a digital health company weren't already in discussions or working with either healthcare providers or insurance companies or whatever it might be, you were in a bit of a difficult position. Also, of course, many of the companies we work with have to clinically validate their product offering, and companies that were in the middle of doing clinical trials hit a wall, essentially, because the NHS had to refocus everything that they were doing, and all clinical trials stopped. But it wasn't all bad. Some companies who had just got that initial foothold with, be it the NHS or someone else, did on occasion experience significant upticks in the usage of their product, which has been great. Also, the NHS was able to move very quickly. There was a fundamental mind shift in regard to digital health and the possibilities that digital health companies can provide. So that was interesting to see, but I mean, we do expect that in the mid to long term, when things get back to some sort of new normal, that the laborious sales processes of the past, where you have multiple stakeholders and the like, will return. But nonetheless, this structural change in the thinking has been very good for the health tech or digital health industry as a whole.
Do you think it was accelerated by lockdown? Do you think that we would have eventually got to that point in a year or 2 years, but actually we were able to kind of get there quicker with that acceptance of digital health technologies?
Yeah, so it was definitely impacted by the pandemic. So, I mean, the easy answer is yes, because it has been on the agenda for a long time, but it's been moving very, very slowly because of the way things work in the health industry. I mean, one can't take any risks lightly, of course. But the interesting thing to see going forward will be to what extent this openness will remain. Some things like telehealth, for example, is definitely here to stay. But the winners there are established big companies. To what extent can startups muscle their way in? That's what's going to be interesting to see. And it's not just healthcare providers and the like who have opened their eyes to digital health. It's of course investors as well, who have seen what some of these companies are able to do and the type of scale that they can achieve. So, I mean, but with that having been said, it goes back to my previous point about the big companies. I mean, the lion's share of investment dollars or pounds has been going into the established big name digital health companies. But I mean, our view is that this structural change and the mindset shift will be good for smaller startups in the mid to long term as well.
That's a really good overview, and you've given quite a few, good examples of what you've seen. But let's put you in the seat, or even Tendai in the seat of an investor in healthcare. So if you were an investor in your sector in health and well-being, what do you think you'd be most excited about? Or what should an investor in your sector be excited about? Where are the big returns, or where are the big opportunities now?
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in there again, Tendai. I think what we think the opportunity lies in clinically validated offerings that can be distributed at scale. So clinically validated products or services that have the potential to transform an entire care pathway rather than just being a point solution will be able to entrench themselves in a strong way because they can prove that they are a new and better way of doing things for the benefits of the clinicians, but also, of course, for the patients. As I mentioned earlier about these companies that have seen a big uptick in usage during lockdown, that has been very interesting to see. They've proven that they can deliver at scale. Now they just need to prove that they will be able to shift what has been in the main freemium models as a way to acquire users, that they can shift that to some sort of subscription model, perhaps. And also they will be able to prove that once the healthcare providers start consolidating their supplier base, that they will be able to, be a serious contender in that, in those longer term contracts. I think it's also what we've noticed is that companies that are mainly focused on the B2C sales channel can sometimes suffer quite a lot because in some verticals within digital health, the B2C channel is very crowded. So companies that can efficiently build multiple sales channels, be that B2B or B2B2C, will be able to acquire users more broadly and of course much more cheaply. And that we think is an attractive investor proposition.
Yeah, sounds it. Right, so I'm going to turn to Tendai now. Tendai, what advice have you given the most in the last few weeks and even maybe the last couple of months? What are the things that you hear yourself saying again and again and again to the enterprises you're working with?
Yeah, thanks, Theresa. I think I want to echo what Carl has been saying, especially within the digital health spectrum, that some companies, especially the ones that have been clinically proven, have been doing quite well. However, we do have a variety of startups that have been looking to enter the market, some of them that had been looking to raise funding during this period. The one thing that we have been saying, especially, is to manage the expectations. So this is not the normal environment that we have ordinarily been raising capital in. So things like your valuation have to be managed and probably sometimes even discounted, considering what is happening in the market, especially if you want to raise money in time. The other thing is that the timeline of investment might have increased, and in most instances they have increased, especially if they're not the big companies that everyone is going for. So they have to manage the timeline of investment, especially considering that most things are slower, considering that they're being done virtually. The other thing that we've been advising companies that we've been working with is to bring down their burn rate. This is very important. And to acquire some form of bridging funding, maybe whilst they await for the larger funding. This is just to bridge them for this period. Anything that reduces their cash spend is very important, especially without compromising their impact greatly. The other thing, especially on the well-being sector that we've been looking at and that we've been advising our companies on, is that customers' needs and their wants are changing. Where someone would have wanted to just walk into the doctor's office any day, people are avoiding to do that, for example. So to adapt yourself to what customers are looking at and what customers need at this point is very important. Some needs are temporary, and there might not be any need to significantly ramp up operations of a company or raise significant funding to ramp up equipment in order to address a temporary need. But where needs look more permanent, it is necessary for company to make the significant adjustments.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that when we speak to some of the other sector leads at ClearlySo, I think we'll be quite surprised to find that a lot of them will actually be talking a lot about bringing down valuations or being more realistic in valuations, and also understanding the new elongated timelines. Although we are hearing something from our investors that they're starting to think about meeting people, and that kind of is opening up, which is quite exciting.
Just to add on that, investors are opening up, but everyone is still a little bit cautious at this stage. So everything is being approached with a bit of caution, especially where the one thing that has catalyzed, so to speak, the healthcare sector is artificial intelligence. But it still takes a long time for it to be adapted. And investors are scrutinizing business plans, they're scrutinizing business models a lot more than they were before. So yes, the market is opening up, but there is that level of scrutiny that is happening as well.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good insight that you guys have. So I'm going to go on to a different question around what kind of enterprises that you guys are looking at right now, and what kind of characteristics do they have, and what do you see in that pipeline? What are the ones that have the greatest strengths? What are really showing the winning characteristics in that pipeline? If either of you wants to jump in.
So it's a broad question, but I think as Tendai was saying, it's founders that have shown that they can react quickly, that they are pragmatic, is very attractive. That could mean multiple things, of course, but for example, prioritizing one product line over another, bringing down your burn rate, of course, being able to keep the wheels of development spinning even though the NHS has been closed, whatever. So flexible, quick reactions amongst founders. We like to see that in our pipeline. Also, companies that had these existing relationships or dialogues with healthcare providers, insurance companies, etc., before lockdown are now starting to reignite those commercial relationships. It's early days, but slowly things are getting started and business is moving again. So we have a lot of companies in that position within our pipeline. But it's interesting to note that there's some companies who are in this clinical validation phase of what they're doing before lockdown were able to acquire significant data sets, enough data sets to be able to keep working and keep refining on their product during lockdown when clinical trials were shut. So companies like that are in a stronger position now compared to those that did not have these data sets yet. Those are some basic elements of what we've been following, and then back to the having the multiple sales channels and all of this. It's an exciting time for digital health.
Yeah, and I think you have both been really lucky getting, part of what ClearlySo does is really get to know enterprises well. And it's good that you've been able to pull out some of the themes that will allow other enterprises in your sector specifically benefit from that knowledge. We're asking one final question to all of our sector leads, because most of us are gearing up to go on a holiday or sort of ease up a bit for the summer, although obviously we're still laser focused on closing the deals that are in flow and getting ready for September. So in the spirit of kind of the back to school or getting ready feeling, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to after the summer?
I'll take that. With regards to the things we're looking forward to after the summer is the autumn weather. But besides that, I hope we all get to enjoy it. But besides that, we have a couple of events that we have lined up that we are looking forward to in September and October and December. We've got the Digital World Health Congress that's happening on September 29 and 30. This is going to focus more on artificial intelligence, but not only in the digital health spectrum. It's going to look at elderly care. It's going to look at dementia. There's going to be panel discussions on the digital health market, the emerging new verticals and opportunities in the markets, as well as healthcare with mobile apps and wearable technology post-COVID. So that's going to be very, very interesting. Another event we're looking at is the MedTech Europe. This event is going to be happening from the 12th to the 16th of October. This is pretty much a holistic sort of voice that is, I think it should be the 6th year this is running, and it's going to be done virtually. It's capturing all the voices. So we're looking at patients, healthcare professionals, policymakers, academics, all coming together and speaking about the sustainability of the healthcare systems. So that's also going to be interesting. And the other event, which is by far not the only event that we're going to be looking at, is the Barcelona Health Hub Summit that is on the 29th of October. This is a 2-day summit, and it's going to be looking at investment in e-health and telemedicine, which is of particular interest to us as ClearlySo, and also talking about the state of digital investment currently. So those are some of the events that we are looking forward to.
That's really great to hear, and it's good to hear that these events are starting to restart again, and they'll be probably a big benefit to both the enterprises you work with and the investors that you guys are meeting in your sector.
Also, the one other thing that is particularly interesting in most of these events is the focus on innovation. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, especially with all this time in lockdown and getting to try new telehealth or digital strategies like Carl was mentioning, some of the results of that should start coming out, and maybe we'll learn even more about innovations in your sector. Thank you guys so much for doing this. And I know that those watching will be really excited to hear what you've thought. And we're going to put details for how to contact both of you below the video, so people can get in touch and tell you about their enterprises, or as an investor, tell you what they're looking to invest in, and maybe get your advice on that. And I'm sure you'll be excited to do that with them. So I just want to thank Carl, and I want to thank Tendai for being here, and hope to speak to you next time when we have the other sector leads coming to talk about their sectors. So thank you.
Thanks, Theresa.
Thanks, Theresa.